9.9 out of 10 people who ride the Himalayan will come away impressed. This is a tremendous go anywhere single bike garage motorcycle. Royal Enfield have hit it out of the park. Almost. I'm very happy riding this, but I also see how close they came to destroying everything in their path. The Royal Enfield story, it has some very high peaks and just a few dark valleys. What I'm super kicked about is that the Himalayan is very, very hard to fault. Its most impressive aspect is the suspension, whose brilliance is greater than the most cunning of the Indian road builders. And it is excited to go to places where the road contractors have not worked their magic yet. And that 21-inch front wheel, it performs beautifully somehow on tarmac too. And the engine is flexible. You can play the high gears, low revs game and go very swiftly. Or you can rev it out to the red line, which is one of the problems. This is a buzzy engine. The contrast to the smoothness of the suspension, it's really hard to accept. It's not a deal breaker. Then there's the display. It's very nice and not very useful. And we do like to have more equipment on our bike for the money, but tubes, put a gun to my head and I'd rather use shoot than have an actual tube today. Let's just deal with the issues first, okay? Because from there, the Himalayan story soars and each peak is higher than the next. The temporary issue is the lack of tubeless spoke trims. I would just wait for Royal Enfield to sort it out and then opt for one of the two options, the Impulse Pro or the GS 40th. Hey, those are the names you guys gave it, okay? They're the Camet White and the Harley Black. The annoying issue is going to be the screen. It says Royal Enfield knows how to make a great user interface, but the experience needs a little bit of polish. Take the maps integration, for example. Looks great until your phone falls out of your bag or pocket. Somebody finds it, realizes it's completely unlocked. Goodbye, phone. We're going to be mounting devices to run navigation on the Himalayan, I guarantee it. How do I know? My Ducati Multistrada V4 has a very similar system powered by the absolutely terrible Bosch MySpin platform. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I bought my first ever Android phone, a throwaway device to run navigation. The TFT is bright and the design is nice and restrained, but interacting with the system, that can improve further. Changing display modes, it just takes a little bit too long. Resetting the trip meter, the solution is non-obvious. And you can turn off ABS a little bit too easily for my liking, and maybe that's why you can't change riding modes while you're moving. I also love the higher quality of this switchgear, but the side-to-side design of these switches, it makes no sense to me and I honestly intensely dislike it. But the big issue really comes from the engine. It's a surprisingly small thing, but the more I rode the Himalayan, the harder it became to ignore. The Sherpa could have been a brilliant engine. Today, I'm going to classify it as good. It's a big step for Royal Enfield, it's thoroughly modern, and the power delivery is rudely healthy, and I mean both of those words. The engine moves this not too light motorcycle swiftly from as low as 3000 RPM. And if you rev it out fully, there's no doubt about it. This is a powerful, robust, healthy engine. I loved how fast the Himalayan has become, as well as how fast you can go while feeling like you're barely working the engine. But it is a rude engine, and what I mean by that is it's buzzy. The buzz is not so much that it's a deal breaker, but they've polished the rest of the motorcycle to such a fine sheen that it sticks out. And it gets worse. It's almost ironic that 80 is smooth, 130 is pretty smooth, 90 to 110, there's a buzz. And let's be clear, there are motorcycles in its peer group that are far worse than this, and I do realize that it's not going to stop me from recommending this bike to you or actually buying one tomorrow. It's a tiny issue that feels like a big miss. Maybe the double-mounted foot pegs were a warning. And in the same breath, I loved the Sherpa's dual ability to be able to plug slowly through the world or swiftly, both without feeling like you're working hard. Or rev it out and slice through reality in a blur of performance. This is wonderful. As is the Gearbox. It's slick, precise and light, never missed a shift, and I was desperate for a quick shifter, not because I think it would improve this bike's utility, but I think it would be so much fun. Hell, I'd rather have the quick shifter than the two riding modes because I couldn't tell the difference between the two. If you're riding hard, expect 20 to 23 kilometers per liter, and that will jump 5 or 7 kmpl. When you back off the aggression, not necessarily the speed. The Sherpa should have been the highlight of the Himalayan, but its buzzy thunder, it's stolen by the super smooth chassis. This is the best adventure tourer in the class, and it's not even close. The 400X, for example, it's very good on bad roads, it manages well light off-road, it's comfortable, it's an impressive motorcycle. That is another level. This motorcycle will personally show its longest finger to every single bump it hits. Long travel suspension setups like this can easily be too soft or too stiff. This is just composed. The suspension setup, frankly, it's a masterclass. Some of those manners rely on the 21-inch front wheel to do what it's supposed to, be hard to deflect off the path, and that's why the Himalayan is so good off-road. But I am shocked at how little the 21-inch wheel interferes with your road experience, because this feels just like a regular motorcycle to throw around. And these new Seats, they are pretty good too. You can get up to a pretty rapid pace on tarmac, but remember, when you're pushing it, watch out for it. The rear will give up first, but it does give you a warning. Brakes are good too. The front has enough bite and feedback, and the rear can feel a little bit strong, and the rear ABS, it's a little bit lazy. If I was riding the Himalayan mostly on tarmac, as I suspect many of you will, I would be looking for a more aggressive front disc pad to get more braking done there. I'm honestly shocked at how good the dynamics are. Off-road, on-road, in the corners, in the city. This is fantastic. Which obviously means that you'll be comfortable, right? Mostly. I'm 6 foot tall, and I found the handlebar a little too tall for my liking, although I do understand it's meant for you to be able to stand up and ride off-road as well. But if I was riding the Himalayan mostly on-road, I'd be looking for a lower handlebar that placed my forearm horizontal naturally. What I really struggled with, though, was the shape of the seat rather than the foam on the seat. It constantly put me in a position where my future children were wedged against the front of the seat where it kicks up, and it wasn't very comfortable at all. If this was my bike, I'd be removing the foam towards the back of the seat to get it as horizontal and flat as possible. Apart from these two hiccups, this is a naturally comfortable upright riding position motorcycle that most of you, I think, will like. This time, we'll cover service and warranty in detail in the FAQ video series, but there are no real surprises because its schedule is the same as the 411 schedule. There's only two real changes. The inspection of the control cables as an item has been eliminated, and the injector cleaning interval is now 4 times longer, which does imply that this is a more reliable machine. What have you missed? Oh yeah, the design. I do like how it looks. I like the stance. It looks large and substantial, which it is, but I also see today that Royal Enfield's walls of heritage and history, which keep the enthusiasts in and the competition out, I think they're beginning to interfere with their ability to innovate and think outside the box. Take the tank rack, for instance. It's a throwback and a half, and I'd like to remove it. And that would make the messy front end look even messier. The area below the TFT up to the handlebar, it's a mess of wires and wire keepers and mismatched bolts. And when you turn the handlebar to lock it, it exposes this mess even more to the world. On the side of the bike, there are 7 structural bolts that do not match the rest of the forest of nice-looking polished hex head bolts. This is a high-quality, robust-feeling motorcycle that is let down by the quality of the finish. It's like the attention to detail guy took a sabbatical. Come on, Royal Enfield. And still, the Hanley Black looks smashing. The Royal Enfield Himalayan is trouble for all its competitors. It will power the dreams of anyone who buys one and rides. It does so many things so well, so naturally, that I would have called it the world's best 450cc class ADV. It certainly comes close. Royal Enfield needs to work a lot harder on the finer aspects of their products. They've come so close to being world-class with this product that all of the competition should be worried. But should you buy one? I think you should definitely get a test ride. And as I said right at the start, 9.9 out of 10, you're going to love it. However, I would also suggest that Royal Enfield takes themselves a little less seriously as a retro bike company. I think the brand is powerful enough and flexible enough to accommodate modernity. I mean, they didn't create a system that unfolds the right paper map for you to navigate with. There is instead a suboptimal Google Maps integration. The conceit of not offering cruise control on a touring machine, no traction control on a 40 bhp bike that new riders will ride. It suggests that history, a great lens to look at the classic 350 with, is blocking the view for the Himalayan. Where does the feature creep stop? Asked Royal Enfield. Well, the answer is the Himalayan. This is the answer to what does a rider need to travel India happily, freely, and enjoy this beautiful country. The Himalayan needs to enjoy the fruits of all the engineering, functionality, and sensitivity that Royal Enfield is growing into and showing itself insanely capable of. This motorcycle should be able to wear Oakleys if it wants, not just wire-rimmed specs with sepia lenses.